Greetings, 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 good people. Welcome to our first day or first night of our 5 days together of teaching and learning and ritual and just really getting into some of the karmic archetypes, the karmic um, gifts that we have, and understanding ourselves to lead us to Saturday, our final day together, where we'll do the great unbinding, a ritual to kind of help us to release what's been holding us back, release some of the trauma and drama, and to move forward with our soul's assignment. And so today we are talking about, or over these 5 days, we're talking about ancestral wounds and shifting that into our soul's assignment and understanding how those wounds lead to and help us with our soul's assignment. If you're new here, my name is Barbara Ohuninifa. I am an author, an ancestral strategist, and a sister that just been through a lot of things. All of the karmic archetypes, all of the karmic patterns, all of the possibilities. Well, let me not say all the possibilities because I ain't trying to test the universe. But your girl just been through a lot of things and have come to understand a lot of things and using that experience to lean into my soul's assignment, which is to help others and to illuminate this path for others. So y'all gonna see me looking all over the place at my notes. As you know, if you've been rocking with me for a while, the perimenopause is a real thing. But in particular, I've been running it and all over the place. So yeah, we all gonna do that. Take a deep breath and just get grounded and settle in together today. But the other reason why I have the notes is because I want to stay on track because we're doing this and we'll be together for 5 nights. I want to make sure I preserve my energy, and I also want to make sure I tell you the things that I want to tell you and I share the things that I want to share with you and don't forget. So again, Barbara Ohuninifa. I have 2 books. One is more of a memoir. The other is a memoir and self-help, and the other is an activity book. You'll find more about them in the description. But tonight, again, this is night 1 of 5 nights that lead us towards that 999 power portal for September. 999, I have videos and shorts to tell you all about what that means, but there's 3 portals in September, and the last of which is coming up on Saturday, September 27th. 2 and 7 equal 9. So it's a 9th month and it'll be a 9-day. But this whole year, we're in a 9-year. And this is universal. These are the numerology that's affecting us all. But we also have our own individual numerology that triples up on these same dates, with the 27th being the last date. So it's a perfect time for this portal that we've been moving through in September to finalize and complete. And by finalize, I mean this is an opportunity for us to proactively lean in and let go of what needs to let go and call in what we are meant to call in so that our paths can be a little clearer and straighter for us. I say straighter because, it's all a spiral. But really, it's about tonight and for the next few nights, we're going to confront the inheritance. We're going to unbind what has been bound, what we have been moving through and working with unknowingly and sometimes knowingly. And we're going to claim our assignments. Each of us came here for a purpose, came here with our own gifts and experiences that are needed at this time, as times such as this. And there's a reason why your soul is here. Your soul understood the assignment, which, by the way, we'll talk a little bit more about my fall cohort of my Your Soul Knows the Assignment course that's coming up. But we'll talk about that later. Today is about what we can do to help and to understand what we're in. Before we get into it, and not go too much further, just click share. Better yet, click subscribe, share, like. It's always weird to me to tell people to share something when we haven't gotten into it yet. And they don't know if they want to share it. But you can't click subscribe so we can get into that. Now, today in particular, day 1 or night 1, we're talking about healing the karma of stolen labor and repairing entitlement. And as you can see from the title and from the descriptions, I normally talk exclusively to Black women, and I'm still doing that. But what I've come to understand over the last few weeks is that there is a message that my ancestral mothers also have for white women or non-Black women. So to the extent that they can be present and not center themselves in the midst of that, even though we're talking about personal development. So in that light, you can center yourself in your own development. But as we're talking about, I'm going there with this, even though we're talking about generally our own personal karmic archetypes. And I have 4 of them that we'll go through over the next 4 days. But I'm talking specifically around this Black women and non-Black women because the transatlantic slave trade, the colonization of indigenous people all over this planet, as well as the harm that's been done to women in general. And I say this, and I've said it before in other shorts, it does not compare to the harm that has been done and continues to be done. And I just did it again. I just realized I'm talking here with the mic and the mic ain't even plugged in. Give me a second, y'all. At least I fixed it early. All right, now let's make. Yes. Bear with me, y'all. We here live and we're doing the thing. All right, either that's the right mic or it's not, but we're going to keep it moving. So we're going to talk about these karmic archetypes, and we're talking about specifically how the karmic archetypes impact us as women, and then Black women and non-Black women, because the slave trade, colonization, this was a huge and continues to be a huge karmic debt to humanity, and it has to be addressed. We cannot sweep it under the rug. We can ignore it and pretend it doesn't happen and didn't happen and isn't still happening, but it's something that we have to address. So that's the lens that I come with this today, but it's also specific to your own personal journey, specific to what you are here to do. And so let me tell you a little bit about this, my karmic archetypes. And they are 4 basically soul pathways. And well, I named them Sacred Builder, Sacred Liberator, Sacred Redeemer, and the Sacred Leader. Now, if you know anything about numerology, there is a foundation of those that have to do with numerology. But more importantly for me is that these are vibrational patterns that I have that I have lived, I have studied, and I have healed and am continuing to heal from, because again, life is a spiral. And in this journey as a Black woman who've had unimaginable health crises, I've had ancestral grief, I've had personal grief, I've had losses, I've had betrayal, and just the daily realities of being a Black woman in a very racist, misogynistic world. We've learned some things, and I wanted to be able to help others to get through that. And so numerology will tell you. So again, tonight we're talking about Sacred Builder. Numerology will look at that as that karmic 13-4. If you know anything about numerology, if you have a 4 that comes up and it precedes 13 precedes the reducing down to 4, that's a karmic number. That's typically about discipline and building solid foundations to overcome laziness and a work ethic from when in a past life or in an ancestral lineage, other people's labor was exploited. And so that karmic deck shows up around work and discipline and building structures. And that's true on the surface, but what it's really about is about repairing our relationship, or the soul's relationship, to work and labor. And I take an approach that's culturally inclusive, and I look at multiple modalities. It's not only numerology, I look at astrology and how it shows up there, and I look at different African and African American spiritual systems, indigenous spiritual systems, and my guides and energy healing to really understand these karmic debts. And like I said, and these karmic archetypes and the purpose for them, because nothing in the world, nothing created by the universe, nothing created by the divine is for punishment. It's for purpose. So if we go through things, if we go through traumas and dramas and things related to karmic deaths, it seems like it's just continuing to happen to us. It's not for no reason. There's something we're being trained through. There's something we are meant to understand and to master so that we can provide that and share that with others as medicine. So that's the approach that I take and how I look at it. And it's about truth. It's about understanding truly who we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to understand the wisdom from that. This is not about spiritual bypassing. This is about us moving forward. And so when we think about the sacred builder tonight, we're talking about, again, healing our soul's relationship with work, worth, and value. Um, and it's about sacred labor. Now, we know as Black women, descendant from enslaved Africans, we have this idea, we have this overworking ethic, and we're going to talk about that. But it's really the memory of stolen time and stolen labor that is latent within our genes, within our blood, within our cellular memory that drives us. And the same thing is true for white women or non-Black women who are descendant from enslavers or colonizers. There's a reality that is coursing through your veins as well. This idea of inherited entitlement that you may not even realize is a belief that's there, but it is, and it's part of that 13.4, especially if 13.4 or any of the other astrology or, in West African traditions, there are odus, which are again energy patterns. All of these are different modalities to tell us who we are, who we came here as, and who we came here to be by virtue of the experiences that we have. Again, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this inherited entitlement that many white or non-Black women have is a part of that karmic debt as well. So when we think about Black women and white women, I'll just make it simple and just say that two can hold a 13.4 or some of the other placements within our astrology, or hold the odus or any of the other modalities of recognizing a fracture, a trauma caused around labor. But how we resolve it may be different because of that cultural lens. If a 13.4 shows up for a Black woman descended from enslaved Africans, it's going to have a lot to do with that stolen labor, with not being valued, being used as a workhorse, a mule, if you will. And for white women, it may come from not being forced to work. And I'm talking generally, so don't get upset if that has not been your life. We're talking generally about the two the two lineages of women, even though when we get into it, the lineages are blended. But I'm just talking about those at that high level. And so understanding what work and labor is and how it impacts us if we have that karmic path. And the reality is, even if it doesn't show up in your numbers or in your natal chart or in an Odu or in any of the other divination systems that I use or that others use, it's going to show up in some way because, again, as I said at the beginning, this whole idea, this whole phenomenon, this whole history of um, enslaving other people, dehumanizing other people, all the things that truly happened in the transatlantic slave trade and global colonization, imperialism, and all the other things, all of those are huge karmic debts that we all hold on in some way or another. And so it's going to show up. Sometimes for me, it'll show up in a year, personal year number. It'll be a karmic year. And that'll be my year to get a fast forward master's degree in that particular karmic debt because it's going to take me in. Even if it didn't show up anywhere else, it can show up in your daily, it can show up in your monthly. And again, in some of these other modalities. So understanding these are all paths, these four paths that we're going to go through over the next 4 days are paths that we all have to go through, gates, if you will, learning for our soul to be enriched and to understand itself and others in order to show up for humanity in a way that is healing and that is powerful without repeating cycles. So let's get into this. Now, why? Why now? I mean, y'all know why now. We are in some times where the social climate is downright dangerous. Political systems are failing and at the same time reaching out to bring others with them. Our social and our safety nets are eroding, and well, they're not eroding, they're being taken away. They're being stolen, and it's kind of the rug snatched from under people. We're seeing rights being rolled back, civil rights for all people. The whole fuck around and find out. A lot of people thought they were voting for something that was only going to affect another group, but what we're seeing now is that it affects everyone, which goes back to that core karmic event or series of events that's affecting the whole planet, that's affecting humanity, has to be addressed. You cannot hate another group and want to oppress another group and not have that oppression come back to you in some way. So that's what we are here and want to stand up and do our part in resolving, solving, changing, being able to move forward and have a different world than what we've had before. In order to do that, we individually have to change. We individually have to show up and do what we came here to do, what we were born to do. And it's not some big, grandiose, be a celebrity and get rich. Everybody is not meant for that. But there is something that you are meant to do. There is something that you are here to contribute. And even all of the bullshit that you've gone through serves a purpose in that mission. So that's part of what we're talking about. And we're going to set the intention that we are naming these patterns so that we can stop building on false realities. We can stop building on broken foundations and actually do the damn thing, like the for real thing that can have a lasting impact, that can have a secure foundation so that as we build, we're building on something that is actually meant to move forward for our generations to come. And again, talking about sacred builder tonight, this is the foundation. What we are seeing in the world is all of the structure. What Pluto did for us as she moved, I say she because I liken Pluto to the Orisha Oya. And that's why I do that, because she's moving. Oya is the spirit of transformation. She is the tornado. She's gonna rip things up. You either gonna let it go voluntarily or it's gonna get ripped away. She comes through as a gentle breeze, but eventually, if you are not letting go and changing and transforming, it's going to get stronger and stronger until it's a tornado. Using the forces of nature and Oya as an example. So I liken, and it's not just me, Pluto, Oya, they share the energies. And so when Pluto was moving through Capricorn, bit by bit, we saw all of those structures, our governments, all the things that we have come to accept as a reality of what we're in, fall away, get destroyed, get broken, get dismantled, get exposed for the bullshit. And now she's in Aquarius. And I think right now, out of bounds, so she's doing her thing. Everything is getting exposed, everything is up for grabs. But as I talked about in our September plot twist video that's here on YouTube, things have to change, things have to die, things have to fall away so that structures and can be rebuilt that are for humanity and not this old way of retaining power and just controlling people. She has come through and is coming through to change things, which again means that we have to individually change. So now is the time. So what I want to encourage you to do, we did a tiny bit at the beginning, and we're going to do it again in a second. And I want you to do this throughout, is to take deep breaths. Let's do one now. And then just breathe and focus in on your breathing. As you listen, and you can engage, make comments, but I want to remind you to breathe. One, because we need to breathe. But we're talking about karmic patterns and archetypes and how it shows up for us. So even if it's not intellectually triggering, your body might respond, because we're talking about things that are in your cellular memory. And I want you to have tools to understand, to bring yourself back grounded, because understanding all of this is some degree of trauma. And as we move forward, and my work is always trauma informed, trauma understanding that we're in trauma and have come out of trauma. So simple things like taking deep breaths will help. While while you're listening or engaging, you can doodle, you can draw, you can You can sip some water. I got my water nearby. I'm going to be sipping on water as well. People underestimate the power of water, both anointing yourself with it, taking a shower in it, sitting in a bathtub of salt and water, or just sipping water to just cool and calm. It has a purpose. And it can always come down to close your eyes and just you can hear and listen without being stimulated. But the point is to do what you have to do to calm your nervous system so that you can receive information. Whatever part of what we're going to talk about tonight is meant for you can only land when your nervous system has just a little bit of space for it to get in. So I'll offer that to you to take care of yourself as always. But in particular, when we're talking about some shit that can get heavy, but I'm going to try to not make it heavy. But I mean, it's some heavy shit anyway. So it is what it is. All right. So again, thank you for joining. If you've just joined us tonight, we are talking about ancestral wounds and getting to soul assignments. And then tonight in particular, we're talking about this karmic archetype where we need to look at healing, the karma of stolen labor, and entitlement. So let's get into it. Oh, and the other thing that I didn't mention, well, we'll talk about it at the end. There's 3 other archetypes that we'll talk about in the next 3 nights. But tonight is about the sacred builder. 13.4 numerology, it shows up in astrology, it shows up in Odus, it shows up in Ifa, Odus, that's the same thing. It shows up in every modality of divination you could look at. And that's how I look at them combined, because they all tell you slightly different things and go a little bit deeper. So that's what we're looking at today, is about building that foundation and understanding if that's one of your core missions and things that you're working through. But we're going to find out tonight. Are you going to find out? So the first thing that we were going to talk about, and you saw that in the description, is why Black women carry hyper responsibility and white women carry or inherit the luxury to avoid it. Now that might feel loaded, and this is why I'm offering you the take a deep breath and ground yourself. Nothing is personal. This is truth. And the truth is, both of those things have been generally true. Black women feel like we have to, and have been made to feel like, and have been told and kind of programmed to feel like we have to be responsible for everyone. And part of the reason for that is that we have been. When our families were broken apart, when our bodies were used to produce more enslaved labor, when our bodies were not our own for pleasure, let alone anything in terms of making our own decisions on where and how we worked, we had no ownership of our own personhood, of our own bodies. And that idea, and I say idea just as a filler word because it's not an idea, it's a reality of what happened. Labor, work, effort was stolen from our people, from our ancestral mothers. Children were stolen from our ancestral mothers for labor. And so all of these things, and trying to hold our families together, whether it was back during slavery, on the plantations, trying as best we could to hold our families together while still having to work and being terrorized and all the things. So all the way up and through to now, holding our families and our children together, we see it all the time. We see it in our communities. We see it in our families. Shit, we see it on TV. We see it on social media when people telling their kids, go look for a Black woman. We see it in the world right now when it is Black women who understood the assignment in November 2024 and who keep pushing back against what we're seeing coming out of the US government and their new allies. I won't say the old allies because that's a whole other thing, but the ones that our current administration is aligning themselves with. We're seeing all of that now. And so we know it's time to understand who we are and to move forward and to release that responsibility, because even though we did what we needed to do in November, we can't we can, we've seen that meme with the Black women sipping some tea and just watching the world burn.
We also know that if the world burns, what our children are going to come back to? What our and for those of us who believe in reincarnation, like in West African traditions, or the concept of ancestors and descendants and all of that, we know our descendants are going to come back to what? We got to actually still live here. So my point is that whole hyper responsibility is a real thing that comes from that legacy, that karma, that trauma of being enslaved women, mothers, young girls, children, unsafe, all the things. In order to stay safe, in order to stay together, women had to hold it together. But that's not sustainable. That is not, still not repairing, and not the highest order of how we need to look at work. We cannot continue to move until we go into burnout. So that's one of the reasons and the thing around that. We cannot any longer be the strong one. Now, when we talk about white women and non-Black women who inherit that luxury to avoid responsibility, think about that same time period. And as white women, you may not know as much about it as heck. Some of the young Black women may not know that as much about it. But I'm going to talk specifically about in the South, in the United States. That's where my people are from. That's what my ancestral wisdom and knowledge comes from. My people who went through that, as well as the ones who were never enslaved, as well as the ones who were on the boats who came over, as well as the ones who were on the other side, who were the enslavers or related to the enslavers. So the white women who inherited that um, avoiding work, think about it in terms of patriarchy. They had these huge antebellum houses. I'm just going to paint a picture of the some Scarlett O'Hara situation, but women who were more or less kept women. You weren't allowed to speak, vote, or do any of the things that men, and we're talking about white women and white men now. White women had none of the rights that white men had. What you were meant to do was look a certain way and create the household in a certain way, but not actually push back, not actually work, not actually uh, do any work outside that would actually result in getting a tan, as an example. So, all of these ways that white women were suppressed during that time period, nothing in comparison to what Black women were going through, being oppressed, being terrorized. I mean, in some ways, the white women were being terrorized in their homes. We know domestic abuse and domestic violence is a real thing, and it including back then. But this learned behavior of just kind of playing really small and playing within the patriarchy for the sake of receiving the benefits of that patriarchy, of receiving the benefits of not having to work too hard, not having to have a voice, not having to do any of the things that they were trained, white women during that time period were trained to believe, which just was not them. It just wasn't feminine. It wasn't for them. And then over time, that becomes a way of just being in the world without even thinking about it, in some much of the same ways that Black women learn to be hyper vigilant, learn to be extra responsible, take care of all the things because we watched our mothers and they watched their mothers and their aunties. And so we look to other Black women to see, oh, this is how they do it. This is how they get it done. This is how they take care of their families. White women saw the same thing. Oh, this is what it means to be a woman. This is in that world, in white women's world. and and actually moving with that and move and experiencing that without realizing what it is and why. So that is on both sides a broken relationship with labor, a broken relationship with work and those foundations that has to be repaired, that has to be resolved. Everything that spirit is always trying to do is to resolve and bring things to the middle, bring things to the center. And that's part of what has to happen with the concept of stolen labor and the privilege of avoiding responsibility, the privilege of, and I always do that when I did another short one. I'm like, because that's what it's like, oh my Lord, I can't do it. I am just a woman. Whereas Black women were told, you better get it done because you're a woman. Very different, but these things have to be resolved. And if you take offense to it, take some deep breaths, ground yourself, drink some water, and let's move on. Okay, so the next one. I'm going to try to go through these faster because I swear we're not going to be here 2 hours tonight. So, what does it mean for descendants of enslavers to engage in reparative work without shame or paralysis? Well, shame paralysis. Because a lot of people, the whole, I am offended that you questioned this. It doesn't matter if you're offended. It is that it's what happened. And if your behavior is reminiscent of the same behaviors that got us into slave trade, that benefited from slave trade, you you have to get called out on it. You have to actually address it. And so no longer having that luxury of avoiding, despite whatever the current administration is trying to do with erasing the reality, it is in your cellular memory. It is in your DNA. I don't care what books they take away, what reports they want to erase. It is in there and it will surface back up. And it is to our best interest to address the thing. So, what does that look like? So, what does ethical lineage repair looks like? It's about exploring the roots of your beliefs, exploring how you actually think about Black people and Black women in particular. So I house sit. I'm a digital nomad, so I house sit in different places and taking care of the cats. I only do cats. Um, and so I had a house sit. It was a difficult one. And the short story is that this woman, white woman, in a very, very Black city, thought that as a Black woman, I would be an house sitter, a pet sitter, a housekeeper, and cleaner, and that there would be no issues with me being in a dangerous neighborhood, quote unquote. What in the entire what? And in her mind, I'm sure she did not think that that was offensive or her thought process was off. But anytime, as a white woman or a non Black woman, you make a judgment, you make an assumption about a Black woman, a Black person, whoever, in whatever gender, non binary they are, you have to question it. Don't come to us asking us, question it yourself and assume it's off and explore other ways to look at it. The other things that you can do, that what that reparative work looks like, is to open doors. You've heard this already. If you have access, you open doors. Just the fact that you have white privilege, you can open doors. You can put your body on the front lines, protests and all the things that we're seeing happening, in which many white women are doing that. But use those white women tears to our advantage, to the advantage of humanity, to support Black people and Black efforts and Black women. And I say, you know what I'm talking about when I say them white women tears. Use it strategically, not for yourself, but for others. Because it's a power that you have that we do not have. So use it for us. Change your mind, assist others, assist wherever you can to uplift and help Black women, Black families, children, all of the things. And it's not about appropriation. I will tell y'all one more story about it, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. It is not supporting and it is not reparative work to, as a white woman, visit the continent of Africa multiple times, study with masters, and then come back to the United States and teach classes around music and dance that you learned from African people because you were able to travel there and sit at the feet of masters and learn some things. It's interesting that you did, and we're glad you did, but obviously it didn't change, because, and I'm saying it like that because there are white women who are doing that, teaching African dance class, making money, making their living from it. That's appropriation. That's not reparative act. You may be able to frame it in that way in your own mind, saying, oh, but I went there and I learned all these things and now I'm bringing it back and teaching to others. There's a lot of other things that you could have done with that, but not that. So that is not what it looks like for descendants of enslavers. And I'm going to keep saying that. It's difficult to hear, but that is the reality of what it is. descendants of enslavers and colonizers. Because even if your family didn't actually own people, because only a small percentage owned, because only a small percentage were wealthy enough to own people, even the poorer white people participated in the system in different ways. So, descendants of enslavers and colonizers, there's ways that you can explore how to repair that work ethic, that work relationship, that relationship with labor. And a lot of it is going to come down to understanding your own mission, your own numerology, astrology. What are you here to do? So it's not even a blanket, do this like this. Everybody wants a simple checklist, and that ain't it. Nothing is that simple. All right, let's move on. I've belabored the point. So how shared ethical labor dismantles these old hierarchies? And true collaboration will take out the hierarchies, because the hierarchies are based on the structure, which, let's keep it real, always places white men at the top of that structure. And again, Pluto, Mama Oya, has revealed and exposed all of the brokenness in the structures that many of us already and always knew was there. But some of y'all are just learning that today. Some of y'all are just learning that in this last 6 months to a year, just how fucked up the system is. It cannot be repaired. It must be broken and then rebuilt. But those of us who are to rebuild it, we got to rebuild it correctly. We got to rebuild it in a way that creates systems that heal instead of systems that harm, because that is what we have now. We have systems that harm. So what can that ethical labor look like? So here's an example. Think about a woman-owned tech co-op. It could be Black women coders and white women engineers come together and form a worker-owned cooperative to build ethical AI tools. AI is in the mix a lot, and it's being created and has been created and trained by primarily white men. In general, there's pockets and people involved. But what if that was one of the ways that we look at ethical labor and sharing that without the hierarchies? Pay scales would be transparent, equity shares would be equal, and all the key decisions would be made through consensus, and erase that top-down tech hierarchy. Child, I used to work at a tech company, and do you know what we said in meetings in terms of making decisions? One, the person with the biggest paycheck wins. So everything we did was really just to get the leader in the room to say yes, because whatever they wanted was what was going to happen. So whatever you were going to create, whether it was actually the right thing or not, you had to create it in a way where that person with the biggest paycheck won. That is not the way you create equitable labor and environments. Another example could be descendants of as a reparative housing trust. So descendants of formerly enslaved families and descendants of local slave owners create a community land trust, and the white families contribute their inherited land, and the Black families contribute design input and governance. And notice I did say a community land trust, not the sharecropping shit that used to happen to our people coming out of Jim Crow, or in Jim Crow, but actual land trust community where it's no longer even owned by the white people, and we're all stewarding the land. There's a lot of different models that we can follow that just break away from what has been, that we've assumed has been the only way to move forward and to own land and to do all of that. No, we're going to do some different things now. So, and it's about keeping, the thing I like about this particular idea is that it can keep housing permanently affordable and under community guidance. And we can see what's happening in the world in terms of rent prices. Man, there's so many people on YouTube talking about living in their cars, digital nomading and house sitting like me, or living in storage units. Like, people cannot afford housing. And what if there was a way to bring people together? And the thing is, it's not just Black people. It impacts us harsher because all of the systems are built against us anyway. But what's happening in the world is impacting all people of lower to mid social economic levels. So something to think about where we can be cooperative and not controlling. And what we can do and what you can do is all based on your soul's assignment. You have unique gifts that will help us to build and rebuild this world that we're moving forward. And it's important to understand who you are. Ooh, I think I got comments. Y'all, I've been just like running my mouth and missing all the comments. Yeah. Hey, Keita May. Keita May. Hey, babes. Or is that Barb's? Ashe. Yes, yes, yeah. Y'all, I be trying to remember and figure out how to do the StreamYard. Okay, that was the last one I was on. Okay, so now let me just say a little bit. So that your soul's assignment, you got unique gifts that can help us build this new approach to work. But not that, but this one. Nope, not that one either. So your soul's assignment, your soul knows the assignment is my 6-week course, and I am starting to enroll for the fall cohort. We had one in the summer, and now we're gonna bring people together again for the fall, and it's the perfect timing because this fall, this season, I've talked about it about September. September did not come to play. It's about change and letting go of things, and if you don't let go of things, well, y'all gonna take it. So we need to lean in and understand who we are. And so if you're called to go further with these insights and any part of that, understand that your soul knows the assignment. Again, it's a 6-week trauma informed journey into your karmic archetype. So we're going to talk about karma as sacred law, karmic debt as a wound, karmic patterns as ancestral loops, and karmic archetypes as the roles that you incarnated here to fulfill. There's something about the karmic shit you're going through, we're all going through, that is giving you the special wisdom to help others, the special wisdom to rebuild so that we rebuild not from a place of karma, but from a place of clarity and structure and going forward. And you have to master what you came here to master by going through the shit you came here to go through, not avoiding it. And we're going to talk about that and work through that in that course through ancestral veneration. We'll do some personal and collective ritual and sacred accountability. So we are accountable for who we are. We are accountable for how we move. We're accountable for the mind states that we have now. And that's on across the board, whether it's white women or black women. And we need to do this so that we can transmute pain into power, so that we can actually show up with all of the gifts authentically healed, not spiritually bypassed and pretending, but authentically healed, or at least on the full path of healing, so that there's wisdom that you can share, so that you actually become the medicine that your lineage meant for you to be, that your ancestral mothers are behind you, like, let's do this. It is time. The divine feminine on this planet has been oppressed and suppressed long enough across the board, across all lineages, quote unquote racial constructs, ethnicities, culture. The divine feminine has been oppressed and suppressed, and she wants to rise now. Not even wants to, she is. It just has to. In order for humanity to move forward, we have to have that balance. We have to have divine feminine, which means women and femmes have to stand up and remember who they are and do the work to be who they are. So let's go. Y'all see the call fall cohort. I have opened my calendar for vibe check calls, because here's how it works. You sign up for a vibe check call. We have a little 20-minute conversation, see if it's right for you. I'll see if you're right for the thing. The other thing I'm going to do in the vibe check call is talk with each woman to see if we have white women who want to sign up and black women who want to sign up. We're probably going to have 2 different groups, because there's things that need to get worked on in depth and separately. And to be honest, again, black women are I'm a black woman, so I cape for black women. And the trauma of being in spaces with white women is not something that I'm going to expose black women to again. Even though we might, and I would only be working with quote unquote safe white women, those who actually have done some of the work and want to take it further, we're going to have separate. So that's one of the things that we'll talk about in the vibe check call. But I'm only opening my calendar while I am doing these 5-day series. Your actual call will take place after the series is over, but you have to book it before we get through these 5 days, because I'm only opening the calendar during these 5 days. And whoever is scheduled is who's scheduled. When I shut it off on Saturday night or Sunday morning. So schedule the call if you're at all interested so that we can talk about it, get more details, and let's talk one-on-one about if this would be right for you. Now, if you enroll before the series ends, which means you can just email me, connect@beautifulpowerfullove.com. If you're like, I don't even need a call, I already know I want to get in on this. If you go to, and read a little bit more about it, email me at connect@beautifulpowerfullove.com and I'll get you in there and get some bonuses, some extra bonuses because you didn't play, you didn't hesitate. And we'll go from there. Yes, 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 yes. All right, we got 2 more to go through. We've already talked about the shared ethical labor dismantling. So let's talk about, I think I didn't put the other one on there. So we're going to skip through to, I'm going to talk about this other one first. Let me just take this down. So the other one is when you know it's time to build new systems that honor everyone's humanity. So what a new system could look like. It could be restorative justice courts. So think about neighborhood leaders, survivors, elders, youth advocates, formerly incarcerated residents, because they are people too. Even unhoused people. Truly looking at community is not, it's broader than, oh, just the people I want to. Because you can have different communities, but when we're talking about in a space, in a geographic space, we need to turn back to some of the indigenous ways and look at restorative justice, these courts being those elders and those in the community who actually have a vested interest in the community. And maybe it's a community run restorative justice court where harm is addressed through healing circles and mediation and reparative agreements instead of automatically calling 911. And part of that, especially for those who have felt protected by the police, and I'm talking about white people, descendant from enslavers or colonizers, or just simply non-black people. Most black people, like I'm calling police at the last resort, not because we don't need help, but because we know we are going to be the ones harmed when they show up. Sonia Massey. And part of this work could include learning and unlearning so that to truly be in community, white people would take anti-racist and abolitionist training. Black people would take training to release some of the trauma and to know and remember who they are, to actually understand our history. Not because it's some distant past, it doesn't matter, because we've been lied to about who we are. And so essentially, it's like reprogramming or deprogramming what society has already given us. And that's just one of the things that a community approach could be. And by withdrawing that financial and systemic support from those systems that are failing, that have failed, that have done harm, we actually can create something new. So, and then I'll go back to the one that I skipped that I did not have, since I didn't have the other one for that. Okay. So why choosing devotion over depletion can heal both sides. So think about reframing discipline and work as sacred service, not some endless grind. And I'm not talking about, God bless them, just putting in work for churches and elays and spiritual groups. There was a part of me at one point in time that really felt like I had to cape for the spiritual community that I was in, to the point of depletion. That was still not a balanced relationship with work. And I won't say I was the only one who did that, but I'll just say that, and whether it's showing up for all of the church events, Elay events, rituals, doing all the things, having a balanced approach to work is still necessary. But think about what could be is going back to the idea of land stewardship again. Maybe there was a interfaith land stewardship, especially since we're talking so much about this Christian nationalist movement. Oh, and I guess today was supposed to be the rapture. We all still here. Anybody get lifted up? I don't even know. I'm kidding. So what have we had? Historically Black church and a white congregation. So basically a Black church and a white church that came together to steward unclaimed farmland. Better still, some of the very devout Christian white farmers who are now finding themselves in trouble. What if they cooperatively gave some of their land to Black or brown people in exchange for work? And I'm not, again, not talking about sharecropping, but somehow if they're going to lose their land to the government because, or to whoever, to the billionaires that's plotting to take their land anyway, maybe there's a way to share it. Maybe there's a way to cultivate the land in a way that is sustainable. Because a lot of times our farms are depleting the earth by using the same or doing planting the same crop over and over again versus rotating to put things back into the soil. The bottom line is there's a lot of ways that we can look at sustaining humanity, sustaining, I don't even care about, I'm not even talking about the country, but just sustaining ourselves as a community of people, as a national community of people, as a end-to-end land community of people. And then what if that farmland, so just going back to whether it's two churches that came together or the white farmers and the Black farmers somehow come together, but seasonal planting days and shared harvest feasts to actually enjoy the bounty of that working the land. Do you know how healing that could truly be? To talk about two groups of people coming together to tend to Mother Earth, to bring us nutrients in a way that does not harm Mother Earth and does not harm us. That could be so healing. That could be so healing and restoring dignity to all of us and the gratitude. But, are we able to do that? That's a way that looking at this devotion over depletion can help us instead of, again, like the farmers about to lose their land. Maybe there's a way to partner and actually gain more by working with other folks. So that's just some of the ideas, some of the things that we were going to talking through today around this idea of the sacred builder. There's a lot more that we can go into, but I'm trying to be very concise so we're not here for 2 hours. But this idea of sacred builder, aka 13-4, there are certain Chiron placements, there are certain fourth, eighth, and 12th house placements. There are certain configurations in your astrology chart. Again, there's Odus, there's tarot, um, there's messages from ancestors which come through quite frequently that actually all add up to this idea of sacred builder. So it's not just about, oh, you abused labor in a previous life. It's about the relationship your soul has with work and labor. For Black folks and Black women in particular, because that's who I'm talking to, it's been around the stolen labor. And for white women or white people in particular, in general, but white women in particular, it's been about the avoidance of responsibility. How do we bring those two together and find the middle and find the healing within that? And each individual doing the work to heal their relationship with labor so that there's no more depletion and there's no more over reliance on someone else's labor to actually hold a felon political leader accountable, which we know there's a lot of Black women that's in the media and in politics that is doing that. So that was that. And so, because I'm about to go on a tangent, so I'm pulling myself back. That's what y'all hearing. So let me see, have there any questions about this sacred builder um, purpose, contract that we're here for? Um, let's see, somebody said, Wait, when you I'm gonna take my glasses off because, like, I don't see very well with or without them anyway. When you hide your gifts, you fuck the collective and not in a good way. It's true. Like, it's not in a way that we would enjoy. And I always would say, to people, and it literally used to really piss me off. I had to grow some more, but it used to really piss me off when I would see people who are in spiritual leadership roles and positions who have and even if it's not spiritual, like any kind of leadership role where you have people's ear and you have influence and you use that for some bullshit, or you just use it to continue the negative, the unhealed hurt parts of you. Oh, it pisses me off. Well, I'm gonna say it used to piss me off because now when I look at it, I see what it is and I understand it. It's disappointing now, whereas before it pissed me off. So yeah. And let's see. Tall Coco. Hey girl, hey. If you don't let go, you could get dragged to places that are not for you or us. Hunty, all kinds of places. Because we right now are in places that we don't want to be. By place, I mean, what's happening in the world in the United States. And I gotta even say the world, because there are people in Gaza, there are people in the Sudan, there are people in the Congo. There are people all over this planet that are being impacted by what's going on. And it's not to say that they didn't let go, although I don't know their karma. There may have been something that needed to be done so that they wouldn't be in that position. But I'm not victim blaming, but just saying there is a tapestry of patterns happening that we can only detect bits and pieces of it. But don't none of us want to get dragged. I know I don't want to get dragged. I done got dragged enough in my life. We done with that. Transmute pain into power. I know that's right. And a barter system would be so dope to help the collective. Like for real, mutual aid. I talked about that a lot in the ancestral activation for Black History Month. I'm taking a deep breath because that was 28 days, but I need to go back and edit some of them videos and put in things so it make it easier for y'all to watch. But mutual aid was something that actually was a key part of how we came out of or made it through Jim Crow, made it through the civil rights era. And it's only since then that mutual aid societies, in terms of just being able to take care of each other, whether it's through money, housing, food, um, I would say medical care to some extent, because when you talk about hoodoo, we used herbs, we used what was naturally available to us, and midwives and just common sense, grandmother sense to take care of each other. All these ways that we put structure around to help each other. It was clear. But since then, since the civil rights movement kind of those things have went away. They need to come back now. I totally agree. Bartering, being able to exchange. I mean, hell, I'm house sitting. I'm taking care of some lovely cats in exchange for accommodations. It's a form of the barter system, and let some mostly lovely people. There was the one I talked about earlier in the live stream that wasn't so lovely, who assumed a lot of things because I'm a Black woman. But in general, I find that people are excited and want to be in community with one another. Yep, I was just about to say, even midwives, like for real, there was a point when we couldn't go to hospitals. We couldn't. And it's coming back. The doulas and the midwives. I was about to say, I know Iya, she's a priest of Oya and Oshun, and she just finished midwifery school. I was trying, because she got so many names, I couldn't remember which were her names in there. But that, yeah, we need more of that, and we need to actually come together. And white women, that was one of the other ideas. I didn't talk about it though, was white women who have been in like nurses in NICU, or in OBGYN, as well as Black women who have done some of the same things. And in between the two, midwives, doulas, and all the things coming together to create our own system, our own clinic, our own birthing center that's not held under the same structure as the white male Western medicine industry. There are so many options. There are so many possibilities when women think how women think. And I say that not to be sexist, but to say that we've been in a structure, in an environment, in a system that has thought very linearly and harshly and patriarchal. I won't even call it masculine because it's given masculinity a bad rap, which is unfortunate because patriarchy and masculinity are sometimes used interchangeably, but they are two very different things. The sacred masculine is going to take care of, is going to hold space, is going to make sure that there's a protective barrier so that the women, the divine feminine, can do the work of creation. Patriarchy does not do that. Patriarchy just wants to extract. But I digress. So let's just take a couple more deep breaths because we got into it a little bit. Didn't go too deep, but I always know a deep breath helps me. Let's do two more together. I'm going to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. One more. Yes. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to do tonight. Hopefully you have a pen. Oh, many of Black Power Reiki alumni do. Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, you know Black Power Reiki? Yes. Oh wait, no, you are Black Power Reiki. Cal, I didn't recognize your picture. That's another sister. Black Power Reiki. I don't know what you check her out on Instagram and I think Facebook. Let them know in the comments. Damisi. You trying to hide. Okay, back to my point. So, a couple of things I want you to do tonight. Just simple journal before you go to bed. One, the first, there's two questions you're just going to ask and just free write whatever comes up. When you look at your own life, do you notice a repeating lesson around work, responsibility, or creating structure? That have you either been carrying too much or avoiding responsibility and believing that you have some weakness or can't do something, avoiding the weight altogether? And what might that pattern be showing you about your soul's assignment? So that's kind of two parts. Just think about your own life and repeating patterns around work and labor, either doing too much or too little. Work, labor, too much or too little. And whatever that is, what is that teaching you about your soul's assignment? And maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing, but you can't even get the answer until you ask. But I suspect you'll probably get some answers because that's what happens when you ask your soul some questions, you get some answers. Patriarchy is the reason why Mother Earth tearing shit up throughout the world. Exactly. She pissed off. She's like, oh, nope, nope, and nope. We're not doing that. All right. Okay. And so the next thing I want you to do tonight, I'll be taking little detours. The next thing I want you to do tonight is journal about. So you had those two to kind of understand where you are with this idea of the sacred builder. What's your relationship with labor and work? Is it too much or too little? Or are you actually balanced in that? And either way, too much, too little, or balanced, what's that teaching you about your soul's assignment when it comes to work, labor, and structure? The next thing to talk about and to think about and to write about is what is one structure, big or small, in your family, workplace, or community that does not honor everyone's humanity? And what step can you take to help design a more just, shared, sustainable alternative? And that's not too hard. Almost every system does harm. Almost every system that we look at does harm. But pick one that resonates with you personally and understand and ask yourself, what can I do to shift that? As structures and systems are being dismantled, destroyed, and disintegrated, or Yah is doing her motherfucking thing, what role do you play in building something new, something healing, something that's filled with love and possibility, something that actually nourishes humanity? What part can you play in that? So first you're going to understand what your relationship with labor and work is, too much, too little, or just right, and what that's teaching you about your assignment. And then you're going to look around in your world to understand what system is just so broken that really grinds your gears that you have something to contribute to rebuild. I don't even want to say rebuild because that implies that we're taking what was there and rebuilding it. We're building something new because this shit didn't work. What's your role in that? However small, however big, whatever it is, this is for you. It's not something you can come back and tell me, not unless you enrolled in the class, then we're going to talk about it. But it's something that you can think about to help understand what your soul's assignment is, to start that process. Because ultimately, what we're doing is about ripping away all of the layers, all of the things that we've clung to, all of the trauma that has us hidden from ourselves, so that we can actually know and be who we are. Which reminds me, so the second book that I wrote is an activity book and journal to help Black women to get there, to help Black women to explore parts of themselves. 7 parts, actually. And it's called Remember Who the Fuck You Are. You can get it at shop.beautifulpowerfullove.com or on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I think it's on Barnes and Noble. It's definitely on Amazon, but get it from my store because, forget about all the oligarchs. Just buy it directly from me. Bye bye. And so that's another thing that you can do aside from those journal questions to do work on tonight. At some point, get the book and just start working through it. Do some puzzles, do some coloring, do a little research, write some of the journal prompts. There's a lot of different exercises that are fun, but also will get you to thinking about yourself and your world and your ancestral mothers in a different way. Because ultimately, that's who I work for. I work for them ancestral mothers. They don't play. They don't play. And I'll if you don't know that much about me, you just go back and watch some of my other videos or read my first book, From Fat, Black, and Unlovable to Beautiful, Powerful Love. When the mothers say you need to get on your assignment, they don't play. You got to get on your assignment. So that's where we are. That's where I am. So I want to thank everybody for showing up live, and I want to thank the hashtag replay sisters and femmes and people and persons. Um, And I hope to see you tomorrow. So we're going to do night 2. It'll still be at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow we're talking about turning ancestral trauma into sovereign joy, joy/freedom/liberation. Our joy and the ability to just be in joy was kind of stripped away from us being Black women or Black people in general, but I'm talking to Black women. And to some extent, white women, not nearly as harshly, but in some ways that was confined, the actual pursuit of joy. And so, anyway, there's karmic lessons and debt around that, but also, as always, there's purpose in that as well for people in general. But I'm going to talk specifically to Black women and white women because if this planet is going to survive, and we will, because Mama Earth says she's going to always be here. If humanity on Earth is going to survive, it's going to be women that does it. And it has to be all women. Black women got to remember who the fuck they are, and white women have to face the shit that they've inherited and take accountability for it. And there's no shame in either one of those, but it's just what has to be done. So that's part of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And again, share this video if you think there's someone who needs to hear it, needs to see it. Don't be messy if you think somebody needs to understand what labor is. I mean, you could send it to them, but don't be too messy. And thank y'all for making the comments and doing all the things. Let's get this information out there. But again, I'll be back tomorrow at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, and I hope to see you there. And I am so thankful that you were here with me tonight. And don't forget to sign up for your vibe check call if you are interested in the course. Where's my thing? Yeah, there we go. Vibe check call. I'm only going to have my calendar open till Saturday night. You'll book a time that will be in the following week because we're going to get started in October. It's ancestral season. It's fall. We already shifted into fall. It's all the things for change and transformation, necessary death and changes. And so this was perfect time for us to get this cohort started so we can be all good or made significant process by the winter solstice when we really have to go in. Okay? All right. I'll talk to you soon. Hope to see you on the vibe check and hope to see you tomorrow. And as always, sisters, beautiful, beautiful, good people, take good care of you. Have a good night.